Give yourself a chance and a challenge to grow and realize you didn't pay anything to dream. So if you're going to dream, why not dream big? Well, hi everybody. It's Diane Gilman, formerly known as Queen of Jeans, which is going to be part of today's podcast discussion, but now the proud host of Too Young to Be Old, podcast about aging productively and gracefully. Okay, so who gives you any help in doing that? Nobody, certainly not society. You know, what most people don't realize is my generation, baby boomers, and the generation below me, we enter retirement, and for the first time in history, we face a stretch of 30 years of possible staying alive, but unstructured time with no cultural script for how to fill that time meaningfully. No guidelines, no foundation, no advice. And that is where I stood. So here's brief history. My biggest break in life came at 60 years old when I invented the middle-aged gene, which I was deeply emotionally attached to because I became middle-aged. I couldn't find a jean to wear, and I had been a rock and roll baby and a flower child of the 60s. So at the age of 60, really untoured in the fashion industry and the entertainment industry, tele-retail, I shot straight up. I made my money. I got my respect. I went international. And then 12 years later, I'm riding high, business still growing, crazy growth. I get a diagnosis of breast cancer at 72. Now I have to step back. I have to go for treatment for a year. And guess what? I tolerate it really well. I took an absolute warrior stance to getting treated. I never thought 1 minute to myself that I wasn't going to survive. I actually was grateful for the time off. I'd never as an adult even had a day that I didn't go into the office or wasn't on an airplane. And so I took the best of it. But when I came out of it at 73, I wasn't the same spiritually or physically. And my doctor came to me after my double mastectomy and said, I've got a piece of advice for you. Don't go back into your old life. It'll kill you. You had stress-related toxic breast cancer. You need to change your way of doing things. You need a revamp. And I thought, oh my God, wow, more challenges, yippee. But I listened and I knew she was right. So I came back to work. I didn't even take a year off. I took 9 months off and I was back and everything's humming and sales are incredible. And my audience was so lovely and re-embraced me and it was so emotional coming back. But I was already making plans to leave. I couldn't do the hours anymore. I couldn't be in the studio from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. and be back on air at 8 a.m., fully dressed, fully made up, and work until 11 p.m. I just couldn't do it anymore. And the metabolism of cable TV and tele-retail was slowing down. So also, on top of a difficult work environment, I knew myself well enough to know that even though you have statistics that every year cable TV was losing 10 to 12% of its audience and its subscribers, I was going to try in the most desperate way I could to bring back those sales. But the viewers, the eyes just weren't there. People were all transferring. They were all transferring to shopping online, including me. So at the age of 78 and a half, I signed my contract, I sold my company, and I left. I left as still being the queen of jeans, but I don't think if you are somebody who was always used to being a boss and enjoying the pressures of performing financially, sales-wise, and of course being on TV dramatically as well, you can't just go into a void. And what they say happens is, after you retire, the first and second year of your retirement are the most dangerous years of your life. You probably won't survive unless you do something to supplement your soul and your mind. I knew that I was going to have to get something meaningful going. And I'm going to quote somebody. I'm 37 and I realized last year that I had been measuring my worth by how useful I was to other people. Oh, that was me. And I genuinely don't know who I am when no one needs me. Oh my God, that was me. That is me. So the first thing I did, and we're talking about reinvention. And yes, I worked so much longer than most people do, 78 and a half, okay? Because I never really wanted to retire. And if it hadn't been for breast cancer, I probably would not have retired. Not even talking about what happened when you didn't perform and you made everybody around you not happy. I had to ask myself some really honest questions. One of the most important questions was, who are you without an audience? How do you feel about not going forward into anything structured? Panic stricken. I'm going to be just perfectly transparent and honest with you. I needed structure. I needed to use my survival skills and honestly ask myself, what are your talents? And what can you do going forward? And everybody around me was unsupportive and said, are you crazy? You're almost 80. These should be your, pardon me, golden years. I'm not that kind of person. I assessed myself. I'm really hard driving. I need to keep on performing, to have purpose, to have structure. I need to have foundation. And at this point in my life, I wanted to do something that challenged me, that kept me super interested. And at the same time, I wanted to help other women around me in my generation who were feeling lost. I felt that I was much better attuned to coping and much more grateful for whatever life could give me or I could give back to myself than most people had access to that level of gratitude. And I saw how I conducted myself during cancer and made everything that was a negative a positive. But I never knew I was going to actually have to invent another gear in my stick shift car kind of life to move forward. So I sat down and I gave myself a really honest life assessment. Yes, I loved fashion and love it to this day with all my heart. But I didn't need to design anymore unless I could do it my way. And the industry does not seem to be totally fascinated with dressing older women. So not sure I wanted to fight that battle. But what I learned was I love communication and I love speaking my mind. And I have a lot I'm always thinking about and a lot of current events I want to talk about. And what I want to talk about most is aging females and how to do it productively and satisfying your needs spiritually and physically and moving forward with purpose. And I wanted to talk about fashion for older women too. Talking. So now podcasts are happening and they take talking and maybe I could marry the two up. And I didn't want to sit there in a void of, oh my God, what do I do now? And, within 5 weeks of walking away from tele-retailing and saying goodbye on HSN, 31 years of being on air, I got an offer to co-host a podcast. And I really, really was grateful for that and did that for about 5 or 6 months. And then somebody said, you know what? I think you're better off on your own and you can do it. Well, I'd never been in front of a camera alone. Oh, yeah. I was always complaining about my hosts on TV and they didn't get this and they didn't let me finish my story. But the real truth was I just had to get used to doing a monologue like a stand-up comedian, late night stand-up comedian. And I had no idea what my audience wanted or even if they knew where I was. The biggest move I ever made was that decision to go into podcasting, and I love it. And the next biggest decision as a storyteller, which I am, was to start a blog on Substack. So not only speak my experiences, but write them as well. And what is the best part of it? I discovered that no matter what age I am and what I'm doing, I demand excellence from myself. I demand that my brain always be in some state of action, questioning, researching, putting together. It is incredibly important to me that what I bring forth to you is of the highest quality. These were intrinsic values of mine. They had to be fulfilled. If I wanted to live a long life, 20 years longer, I had to fill it up with something that was satisfying, had a lot of action to it, keep a lot of young people around you, always be in there, your tentacles are in there with current events and current fashion themes, and that you still care. In the last year and a half that I stepped away from teleretailing and filled it up with social media and podcasting and blogging, the most difficult part of that was I just took it for granted. I'm just going to zoom to number one. Time is different for me. I'm not really known in social media. And I got a lot of pushback in social media like, oh, there's millions of gray haired women in social media. You're one of billions. Well, that could be true. But are they me? Can I form enough of an online personality and POV, point of view, that I really stand out? I wouldn't listen to anybody when they discouraged me. And especially in the fashion part of it, where it was, oh, fashion is so overrated and fashion is so oversaturated. And I thought, yeah, but you know what? I've got 50 years of history in fashion. And I've got a passion for it that still burns bright. And I'll bet you I have a different point of view than most people do. And there's always room for originality. That's always refreshing. I would say there was a little bit of push for me to do that. There was a little bit of I'll help you build a foundation. But the real truth is nobody can guide you if you are going into a totally new realm. The only thing that wasn't new for me was I was very comfortable being in front of a camera and talking. And I wound up doing 3 podcasts, 80/40 with Diane Gilman, who I've worked with for a dozen years now. She was in my fashion business with me. And that is about taking subject matter. How do I see it as an 80-year-old? How does she see it as a 40-year-old? Very interesting, challenging. Fashion Thursdays, all about fashion events, and my take on them, super fun. And Too Young to Be Old, this podcast, which is about aging, all the aids for aging, all the buzzwords for longevity, and how to lead a better life as we grow older, not necessarily with medicine and drugs, alternative solutions. I don't want to live forever, but for however long I live, I want to be meaningful. I want to be productive. I want to be interesting to people. I want to be provocative. I want to be mind challenging. I will say this to you, whether you are pushed out of the corporate narrative in your late 40s or your early 50s, or you retire gracefully in your mid 60s, you've got a long time ahead of you. How are you going to fill it? Maybe you were in a corporate job that was safe, and that's how you raised your kids, and that's how you contributed to your household, but it was never soul food for you. So think about this. You want to fill up your time with something meaningful, something joyous, something that gives you gratitude. And you may say to yourself, huh? How would I do that? Because you've always given to others and you've never fed your own soul. I was lucky enough to be in a profession, fashion, and I fought hard to be in that profession. And it was a privilege to be in it for 50 years, half a century. But you know what I said to myself when I left? I said, okay, if you ever get lonely for fashion, you can always just go shopping and put a new outfit together and you'll feel great about yourself. Give yourself a chance to be more than you are. Give yourself a chance and a challenge to grow and realize you didn't pay anything to dream. So if you're going to dream, why not dream big? I always think about one of my very favorite movies, which was A Star is Born with Judy Garland. That's how old I am. I think it was 1954. Judy Garland and James Mason as the alcoholic doomed movie star. Boy, was he gorgeous. And he goes and sees her one night doing she's singing in an after hours club. And he says, you don't realize how good you are. What is your dream? And she says, oh, my dream is every young singer's dream. I'll be singing at a club and somebody will hear me and say, we want to record that song. And they record it and I'm played in every jukebox in America. And he said, that's okay. That's good. But there's one problem. The dream's not big enough. Dream big. It doesn't cost any more. It doesn't take up any more energy or space to dream big than dream small. So I say to all of you who maybe are kind of floating and feeling non-connected and you're not in a structured position anymore and you're kind of realizing you need to be or you want to be or it's important for you to be giving back or contributing. Don't ever forget how good you are. Whether it's at baking great muffins or it's at giving a speech or that's inspirational, whatever you're good at and that you truly love to do, pursue it. And don't let anybody stand in the way of your dreams. And realize one other thing that I came to a conclusion about. If people cannot recognize your dream, and cannot respect it and don't understand it. They're not bad people, but they're also not necessarily correct. And maybe they're just not meant to go on this part of the journey with you. When you, as an individual, recognize a talent and a drive within you that is worthwhile and satisfying to pursue, you will become like a magnet and attract the right energy, the right people to you, the right responses, and you will start out on a totally new highway of life. And it'll be way above just existing. It'll be a higher plane, a higher energy vibration where you can feel yourself speeding up and it will feel really good. And I guarantee you, you will be able to sustain it. And in a day and age of AI, that artificial intelligence, which is going to take over so much of what we do, finding your own path, finding your hidden talents, finding that sense of deep self-satisfaction is going to be everything. Well, that's kind of how I reinvented myself. And I'll tell you what, at 80 years old, honestly, I'm so happy. I'm always looking for ways to take care of my body and have it express itself through that healthy glow. And I think I found what to me is a miracle. It is called Amra. It's got all sorts of collagen. It's got peptides. It has vitamins. It has minerals. And it's just this tiny little scoop of it. I don't even take it with juice. Honestly, I just pop it in my mouth. It tastes like butterscotch. It absorbs quickly and it makes a big difference. As you age, even if you are eating correctly, you are absorbing less vitamins. That's just what happens to your body. You need a supplement that's easy to take, almost instantaneously gives you results, more energy, better looking skin and hair, and helps you form a healthy habit and start to get all the nutrients you need. That is Amra. I love Amra. I didn't listen to all the blah, blah, blah chatter around me. And I pursued what I believed in and thought I could be good at and thought I could help culturally and be an inspiration to women my age. And I want to hear from you. Does this podcast resonate with you? Are you at that crossroads in your life where you know reinvention is not only an option, but an imperative? Pursue it with enthusiasm and gusto. It could just be the best thing that ever happened to you and provide you with years of meaningful construct. And may I wish to all of you that you will always be too young to grow old.
Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young to be old.